it's not tasting like an ashtray anymore. The ash has kind of dissipated. No, it's still there, and I'm still getting.
I smell dark cherry, raspberry. Like the taste is very nondescript.
Oh my god! It's just like it's like eating like the smoky wood they put into a smoker.
The wine doesn't help, though.
What?
The wine doesn't help. It is a very acrid wine. It's very, like, bitter.
It's bitter. It's made in a juice box, for God's sakes. I mean, why?
Yeah, let's be real. I mean,
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
call a spade
Well,
a spade.
now, how would you compare this to the couple wine that you bought?
Oh, this is better.
This is better. Than
This
the
is
couple.
better.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
There's actually wine made out of a cup, and it's somehow inferior.
That was horrible. Like, this.
I have to drink this. Okay.
Oh, you do. You have to. You have to try it.
How much was it per glass?
I think the glass was $3.50.
Fuck. This was $9 for
A box. Yeah, but that's 3 glasses of wine.
Yeah, then. Yeah.
Right? So it's not that bad.
And so the cup of wine, that's what you call it. You have to call it a cup of wine.
I think it's actually called cup of wine.
That's not even a good name. I wouldn't call it that. I'm doing that insultingly, calling it a cup of wine.
I think it was cup o' wine.
No, that's what I meant. Cup of wine. Cup, not cup of wine. It'd be a cup of wine. Someone said, someone's going to think this is crap. And they'd be right.
This does not go well with chocolate. Well, we can chuck this and actually have good wine.
No, we will. I want to suffer through something.
Vile just got, this is the Catholic conundrum.
Well, I'm going to wait and have Nicole try this.
Oh, God.
If she likes it, that's it. We're through. Like, oh, it's good. Like, honey, really? Get out. I have to say it like that. Like, get out. This is a final, by the way. This is what the book's is going to look like. There's the cover. There's the inside cover. That's basically how it's going to look.
Okay.
That's a new thing, by the way. The cover.
That is pretty cool. I like that.
It's actually, if you look at the old book, it's this part
Just
on the back
blown
cover,
up.
just blown up. There's my 5e logo, by the way, which is now available.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty sweet.
Check it out. So I'm still using with the old fiction. So that's the old fiction. So all the core books are basically the same.
Yep.
So this doesn't change. The only thing that gets to it, can't actually say the name of the book of the game required. So I have to say, it's the utilizing the 5th edition of the first fantasy role-playing game, the defining RPG of the last, current, and most likely next generation. I can never call it by name. The races we add, I think, 10 new races, and we add about 7 new classes.
Okay.
The races are basically variations on classic fantasy, so they're very, very similar to the D&D ones. Where D&D has, like a fighter has got 20 levels, and he has archetypes, I think, at 3, 6, 9, and so forth. Yeah. But then a rogue has, I think, 1 more archetype level, and he gets his archetypes at different levels. I don't know why. I mean, they did it to make it unique, but it also creates a situation where it's kind of frustrating, because I like the idea of having universal archetypes. So fighter, it's 3rd. Then he gets one at 7th, and then another one at 10th, and then another one at 15th, and another one at 18th. When you go to the rogue, different story entirely. At that point, he gets archetype 3, archetype at 9th, at 13th, and 17th. So he gets them at different levels. So when I did the Tekken classes, I decided I wasn't going to do that. I'm going to have all the archetypes at the same levels, and then the archetypes to be universal, kind of the way prestige classes worked in 3rd edition.
Yeah.
So that's the route we're going. I also added a couple of new skills: intelligence demolitions, computer use, engineering, and sciences.
And sciences, yeah.
Right, vehicle operation is no longer a skill; it's a tool proficiency.
Okay.
Because they've already defined vehicles as a proficiency.
Right.
I'm not a huge fan of the tool proficiency system because it's very vague.
That's
Like, you're proficient with tools, so you can do this tool. So that's why you don't do a thievery skill.
You do a tools check.
You're proficient with thieves tools that allow you to crack a safe.
Yeah.
The reason why I made engineering a skill is because you don't necessarily always need to have your toolkit on you. I go, I'm sorry, I need to get my toolkit for that.
Yeah, because that's where all the answers
Exactly. All my answers are in this. I have to look at my tools. I have to play with them. I can tell you what the compression ratio is for a twin scroll turbocharger on a 2010 Monster Evolution. So, because engineering is as much a knowledge as well as a practice, that's why it became a skill. Because some of you are going to ask, well, wait, aren't you? Because you have toolkits, and toolkits are required. So, if you have a Tech Level 5 kit and you're working on a Tech Level 1 item, you're not getting, I don't think you're getting a bonus, but you do get a penalty if you use an offset kit. So if you're trying to use something that's advanced and you're using something with a PL1, you're not going to be getting much of a bonus. You actually take a penalty based on the differences between the tech levels.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that toolkits are required for. They're not actually a proficiency.
Right.
Right? But vehicles, which were a skill, well, you can learn how to drive, and that's a skill. But you still got to be. You still have to have a vehicle.
Yeah.
You can't just say vehicle operation is not really a knowledge skill. Somebody can say that, but it can just be a regular history check or something like that.
Yeah.
The only difference is that I guess no one's playing Gran Turismo in my setting because you're not really driving a car. I guess you are still using your proficiency. Yeah. But the point is the proficiencies are generic. There's ground vehicle proficiency and aircraft proficiency.
Yeah.
I'm proficient with my Lancer Evolution. I can't drive anything else. No, I'm proficient with all ground vehicles.
Yeah.
There's also bikes. So there's bike, ground vehicle, and aircraft. Scientists is same thing with demolitions. You go, well, you got to be you can just have a bolt cutter or know how to strip or know how to do a disarm check for demolitions, right?
Okay.
That's the same thing because because you have to be proficient with a kit or some kind of device.
Yeah.
And demolitions can be I am proficient with what
C4.
detonators
or
C4. So it became very vague, and so instead of saying I'm proficient with all explosives, because sometimes demolitions is not just dealing with explosives. Sometimes it's putting a detonator on a tank of gasoline
or taking it off.
Yeah, or taking it off. So as a result, that became a skill as well.
Yeah. And sciences.
And sciences, yeah. There's also regional history. You can get an additional bonus or Pacific history area for Amethyst, because that's different, because Amethyst is a very, very big world. That's the other thing I made a joke of, is the fact that, it's going to take us a week to get to this location, because in a fantasy world, it takes you about a month to cross from one side of the universe to the other.
Yeah.
Nothing takes, like here, if you wanted to walk to Quinnell, that's like, well, that's going to take us a day. Yeah, that's the size of your fantasy world, really.
Yeah.
Like, a fantasy world is about the size of, well, a lot of places, like, the fantasy world is like the size of the British Isles.
Yeah.
That's the fantasy world. It's
That's
the size.
Yeah.
Right? Like, BC would be the size of the fantasy world.
Yeah.
And I have all of North America to deal with, so it's just like...
It's got to be, yeah.
It's got to be broken up.
Yeah.
So, the races, now, they're very much forestry-based. So, they have dark vision, brachiate. They can teleport through trees. And like Player's Handbook, split up into subgroups. They did something a little bit new. Mm-hmm. Yes and no. I think other books have done it, but they're doing it. So, like you pick a dwarf, right? You get flat dwarf abilities, but then you can pick a hill dwarf or a mountain dwarf, and that'll change your abilities again. Most of them are regional. Mine are a little different. So in the case of the Chaperon, they are split, Dominoque and Chaperon. Most of the other ones aren't always like that. The other thing I did, which is different, if you look here, the Dominoque can say your intelligence score increases by 1. You can swap this bonus with your racial bonus to wisdom. That's new.
I've seen you do a couple of that, yeah.
A lot of times. Same thing with the Larma Chaperons. The strength score increases by 1. You can swap this with your bonus, racial bonus. That's something none of the Player's Handbook races do that. I want to give people variety. Because there's too many times you're like, so you're an elf, right? So you're a ranger. Because you're a ranger or you're a wizard or you're a druid. Because, but the thing is, you're so dex-based, you're going to be going as a ranger. Because, like, you're a dwarf. Oh, so you're a fighter. It's because it's very hard to skew your character into a path you want. Go, wait a second, can't I be a rogue dwarf? No. Why not? Go for it. I mean, you should be able to do that.
Yeah.
Damascens are very much the high elves, or the default elves. They moved way different from the high elves, because the high elves were still kind of wood-based, and Damascens are city-based, knowledge. They're Vulcans. They're kind of Vulcan-like.
Very logical.
Logical, but they're not emotionally devoid. They're still emotional, but you have to get them into a conversation.
Yeah.
So they have the dexterity bonus. they have ambidexterity, and then they have the gravity focus, which allows them to shift their center
Of gravity.
well, basically affects how gravity can affect them, so they can walk on walls and the ceiling and so forth. And they're also split up into two different Damascens. But their separation did not occur because of evolutionary or adaptation. They broke off because the Limshao have been exposed to humans for about 200 years, and their culture has mixed.
Okay.
So that's why the Limshao ones look very different. They look exactly the same, but they act very different from their fashion and how they act compared to the normal Damascens. That's
Yeah.
why Plenary Damascens is not. It's Limshao and then the rest.
Yeah.
Even though the Limshao are completely the majority by a huge margin.
They're just totally different in culture.
Yeah, they're very different culture than the Plenary Damascens. Now, 90% of all the Damascens in the current setting are Limshao Damascens. Plenary are actually a larger bundle, but they're not actually located there.
Yeah.
Gimfen are the childish halflings, so they're a bit of gnome and a bit of halfling. So they're both gnome and halfling together. So they have age, size, let's see, no, they're nimble, so they have dexterity. And they're split up into kind of the traditional halfling. So they have the mechanist, which is the gnome one, the tinkerer. And then they have the pastoral, which is the more halfling.
Cleric kind of.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they can both be rogues, but Mechanist is one of those ones that wants to tinker with weapons and so forth and technology, while the one wants to be more like the Bilbo, the Frodo, the halflings.
Right.
Right? Ladinians are your tall ones. They're, I think in the old book they were called Grey Elves, but I don't know if Grey Elves were really a thing in canon D&D. Because there are High Elves. In the player's
You're
book,
not talking Drow, are you?
No, Drow or somebody else entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're split up into High Elf and Wood Elf, which is your traditional stuff. But of course, in the old D&D, there's also Grey Elf, who are kind of the upper class.
Okay.
So the Ladinians are Sky Elves. They're elves that basically fled from Earth to avoid degradation, because in Amethyst, humans have been evolving from primitive life forms to more complicated life forms.
Yeah.
Fae began the other way around. They emerged fully formed, being these ultra powerful creatures called the Old Fae or Old Fame. And over the course of time, as they've been exposed to the Earth, they've been breaking into more animalistic, more feral forms. So they started off with these Old Fae, which
So they're in a sense devolving.
they're devolving.
Okay.
So if you look at the map, there's actually, we'll get to the book on that map later here, but in the monster section, there is a little picture which shows that path, right? So
Oh, okay.
who breaks off of whom? So if you, so we'll get to that in a second. But the point is the fact that the Shaperans, Damascens, and the Narrows all broke off from the Ladinians, and then so ogres, goblins, or bogs and pugs, all of these guys can be traced back to the Fae,
Okay.
right? So you look at someone like Grayson's character, who's a Kodiak. A Kodiak is a spawn, so he's not related to the Fae. But a nymph is in the Shaperan tree,
Okay.
right? So whenever you see an ogre or an Ograk, a Chigoth, a troll, those are all based off the Narrows or the dwarf path,
Okay.
right? Damascens have the bogs, the pugs, which means the goblins, the bugbears, and so forth. They're
Right.
split off of that path, and so forth. Shaperans then have the nymphs, the sprites, the dryads.
Right. Okay.
Centaurs, fawns are all split off of the Shaperan branch.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Exactly. And problem is, some of them think this is a good thing. Shaperans think this is a good thing. We're being more close to nature. Problem is that at the bottom, they get really animalistic, really feral. And there's this thing called the anathema, which is easily the worst of each branch, right? Whether it be
Evil or just pure animal instinct.
feral, animalistic,
Okay.
no civilization at all. And some of them are kind of assholes. Not gonna lie, they're assholes. Anyway, Ladinians are at the top. They were the first branch from the old Fae, and they saw all of their children devolving and going further. And because they are basically the recessive gene of all of them, they fled to the sky to get away from the degradation of the earth.
Okay.
The downside, of course, is only like 5,000 of them left.
Okay.
Right? And in the Fae ladder, which I'll show you later, every single time a Fae mates with another Fae or a human, you always get a crossbreed, right? But with Fae, there's no such thing as a half Shaperan, half Damascan. If Damascan and Shaperan get together, the child's a Damascan. Always.
Always.
Because the Damascan is lower in the ladder, so that's what the child comes out as. So as a result, Shaparans and Ladinians are like, we're forbidding.
So you're actually, to me, it actually sounds like relating it to real world terms.
Yeah.
You're relating it to how the royal bloodline works.
Hmm.
It's very much similar like that.
Yeah.
You can only consider yourself pure royal bloodline if you have literally mated with another royal bloodline.
Yeah, that's why. That's why there's so much benzene in the royal bloodline because they're all incest. There's so much freaking incest in the royal family, but that's as a result of the Ladinians, basically because if they mate with anybody other than a non-Ladinian,
They degrade themselves.
the child is going to be not a Ladinian. So as a result, Ladinians are down to about 5,000 left, right? And the thing is, they all have a breeding cycle. Problem is, Ladinians being elder and their elves are immortal, they have a really screwed up biology, right?
Mm-hmm.
The women are only can bear children like once every year or two, and usually it takes about 20 to 30 years for them to have a kid. So a Ladinian couple over 500 years will produce maybe 3 or 4 kids.
So the
population does
just
not
can't-
grow.
Yeah, it can't
So,
sustain
and then you
itself.
talk about the wars they've been in. There's only 5,000 left. So they all live in these sky cities, and the biggest one is called is Ladinia, and it's hiding somewhere conveniently right around Prince George. As a result, they don't have a branch. Okay, so the narrows of the dwarves, pretty straightforward. Now, what makes humans different than elves or fae is that if two fae break off and they go off two different directions and develop a society, right? When they meet like 500 years later, the societies are identical. Their languages haven't changed. Their culture hasn't changed.
There's no cultural evolution.
Exactly. Now, the reason why we have these branches with the Damascans and the Gimfen have been because exposure to humans or exposure to an extreme environmental change that created a different shift. With the Gimfen, it's because they're exposed to human technology, so some of them have decided to embrace it, and that's why you have. But that's a choice.
That's
Not an evolutionary. The Gimfen still speak the same tongue. They still look exactly the same. They just made different choices. The Damascans, it very much is exposure to humans. The Shaparans, it's simply, once again, it's choices in training, but they look and act exactly the same. The Neros are the only ones a bit different because there's a section, a very small subgroup that live in a place called the Finer Fire Pits, which is this deep underground mining network of thousands of miles of networks and exposed boilers and heaters and so forth. So they've just naturally, over 200 years, developed a resistance to heat and so forth.
Okay.
So that's what makes them a little different. But that's the only kind of exception. You have to create a law, a really severe, extreme situation. Like, they will adapt, but what happens is that it's an extreme adaptation, right? Like when the Shaparans were in the sea, they became mermaids. So it wasn't them suddenly, we'll just build and we'll adapt. No, you become an entirely different species. The Tenebrae basically are the drow.
Oh, okay.
They're the drow equivalent in the setting. What's different about them is the fact that, I looked at it realistically and racially sensitive. I couldn't help it. We looked at it and said, oh, wait, so the dark... Again, still, I mean, it is true. You go to historical, the dark elves were dark-skinned.
Yes.
They were covered in soot and so forth.
Yeah.
Having said that, I still didn't really want to go that direction.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem. Whenever you make a movie, she's a dark elf, so you just cast... so Tenebrae,
Yeah.
I flipped them and said, okay, well, what would... If elves were confined to complete darkness, what would they actually be? Well, they'd be blind albinos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we look at actual animals that live in the dark,
They're not.
they're blind, and they have no pigmentation in their skin.
Yeah.
They're you know, what's like the shrew? Which ones? You
Well,
see
there's
them.
all sorts of shrew. There's I mean, you go down deep sea diving.
Yeah.
You see anywhere from white to transparent
Yeah.
kind of beings. You don't. See
I didn't want transparent skin.
No,
That'd be creepy.
that'd be creepy.
But so the Tenebrae are very much they're albinos, so they have all the problems that an albino will actually have. Actually, they're much worse, and magic keeps them alive, basically.
Okay.
They all suffer from cystic fibrosis and stuff like that, and magic.
Jeez.
Magic actually kind of prevents that. So that's the thing that people said, what would happen if magic go away? They
would die.
The Fae would be so screwed up. They all have hollow bones. They'd be extremely susceptible to disease. A lot of them can't handle their own weight. The Neros wouldn't be able to move very well because they have lead iron in their bones, while
Yeah.
the Ladinians and Damascans actually have hollow bones in their in their arms and legs. They just don't have. They can't.
They would. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's an article actually goes into detail of how screwed up
magic beings.
the magical beings would be, some of them would simply drop dead.
Yeah.
So the Tenebrae are blind, so they have blind sense. So there's a lot of Zatoichi, you know Zatoichi? They're the blind swordsman. So there's a lot of that. They don't have a branch as well because they themselves are a branch from Damascens. And then you have Thailand. The Thailand are weird. The Thailand were actually pulled from another setting I created called Terminals, which dealt with parallel realities. And I pulled the Thailand from that setting into this one. Actually, I pulled a character, and when I pulled the character into this setting, I pulled all the races along with it.
Yeah.
So the whole point with Thailand is that there are these two gates, black and white, positive and negative. And I don't say they're evil or good, because the white gate produces way more monsters than the black gate does. Just one is chaos, infinite chaotic energy, and the other one is basically the opposite, static, 0 point, of null. Right? To the point of one is the beginning of the universe, one could be the end of the universe, or it could be parallel universes with different rules. It's never fully explained. But people do associate the black gate as being evil, just because it's kind of the bad ones. Because, you know, even though the white gate creates the more monsters, and most of the creatures people fight, like you guys have all fought a lot of creatures so far in this campaign for 3 or 4 weeks. You have never once fought something from Ixandar. Everything has been something other than some skeletons. Like skeletons are a branch of Ixandar. So if you see undead, that's basically Ixandar magic. But whenever you see any monsters, any like a mimic or a glibbering mouther or anything like that, that's all chaos. That's all stuff from Atracana. But Atracana is life in all forms, which means you get elves, you get dragons, and you get, holy shit, kill that thing with fire. Because that's nasty. But the other one is basically unifying everything into kind of a void intelligence. Like, there should be no consciousness, no emotion. It's devoid of everything, right? If everything's the same, then there is one unifying. If there's one consciousness that encompasses the entire universe, then you basically become God. There's some pretty weird philosophical points, right?
So you're to me, what you're saying is you're literally taking the theories of pure biological processes versus artificial intelligence.
To an extent, yeah. But the point is, in Atracana, there can't be no unifying ruler because it's chaos. You can't control anything.
Yeah.
But in a place where you have complete control over everything, and the universe is a population of one, you are God, basically.
Yeah,
you're the only person in it.
yeah,
You're
exactly.
And it's all the same, then you have control over it.
Yeah.
If everything is 0 and you're the only one,
then you win.
You win, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But that creates corruption. So unlike Atracana, which creates life in all forms, Ixandar corrupts. And it corrupts by turning everything into basically mindless machines. Problem is, the corruption never takes 100%, so you get this kind of mix. So you have these demons called Simjaza, who are very much machine-like, and then you have the Pagas, which are kind of corrupted, but they're not. So everything that was unique about them as a species, the mass experiment has been wiped away. What you have is this default state, this template creature. Problem, yes, almost Borgesque in that way. The fact that they all look the same and they're all one human species. The downside, of course, is the fact that they still can't help by being influenced by Atracana, so they still have this culture that's very barbaric, but it's there. Yeah. Now, the rules of Ixandar are trying to keep these guys in line by saying, stay the machines you are, but because they still have biology of once being Fae, that's still there.
Right.
Thailand are a different situation. Thailand began as elves back in the old age that wanted complete immortality and control, and felt the secret was to study this Ixandar and go, is there a way of gaining this power without it turning you into a machine? So the result became what is like, and because Ixandar is associated with necromancy, right? Yes. The skeletons have no emotions. Yeah. Zombies have no emotion. These are all things. They're organic machinery, do what they're told. Yeah. They wanted to say, can we take advantage of that power without having our forms degraded? Yeah. And that's what became vampires. Right. The vampires of lore. Right? Can we get the best of both worlds? The problem was to do kind of the thing, you have to be a certain type of person. That's not a very nice person in the first place. Yeah. The other thing is that Ixandar corrupts. Even if it doesn't corrupt you to having no emotions, it will corrupt you to believe this is the right way.
Right.
Right? So even though it hasn't corrupted you, you are still a tool of it, which means you are now making armies of zombies and skeletons. So a vampire has its own little keep. He's populating with mindless machines and drones.
Right.
And so in many ways it's still doing the job.
Yeah.
Now, the rulers in Nixendorf don't particularly like the vampires because they're still kind of punching their own ticket.
Yeah.
But the vampires had their own spawn. Like, they would turn people into their side, right?
Okay.
This was successful until, in the New Age, this White Gate opened. And what it did, it created this massive wash of positive energy. And when it hit this land, the vampires were basically, the vast majority of them, were pulled forcibly from that corruption.
Interesting.
Right? In essence, they were given their souls back.
Okay.
Right? Now, the problem is that the ones that signed themselves willingly didn't get turned, but all their servants did. Who some of them can be, or they're still vampires.
Yeah.
But they're still spawn in thrall to this overlord.
Right.
The overlords themselves weren't turned, and there's only like 15 of them. Right? Now, they're something a little different than the Ladinians. They have an overriding gene, basically.
Okay.
Anytime they breed with anybody, the offspring is always Thailand, 100%.
Oh.
That's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing is that their breeding cycle is virtually non-existent unless they pair bond with a non-Thailand. So if two Thailand get together, they'll produce maybe 1 or 2 offspring in 500 years.
Yeah.
But if they pair with a non-Thailand, they'll produce maybe half a dozen to a dozen offspring in that same time span.
Yeah.
So in order to increase their own really limited population, the culture of the Thailand that formed was encourage together other people within their circle, right? Which should be relatively easy considering how statuesque and beautiful vampires generally are, especially when they're not trying to kill you.
Yeah.
And so the Thailand became this exploding population in the span of about 500 years. Now, at this point, there's still only a few thousand of them, sired from 15 core stock.
Right.
Of them, only 10 of them actually reproduced. 5 of them just didn't. Go, no, I'm not going to be a breeding engine for you.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, 80% of Thailand are women. And next thing you know, every religious zealotry says, these are succubi, don't be entranced by them.
Right.
And so, in certain circles, the Thailand are extremely unpopular.
Yeah.
For no fault of their own.
Yeah.
A little joke, by the way, back when I created the Thailand in the original game, they were called Twilight.
Oh, really?
This was 20 years ago.
It's so
So-
It's funny.
Yeah. Kodiaks, every book's going to have a spawn species.
Yeah.
And for this book, and for all the books so far, they've been the Kodiak, which are the bear people.
Yeah. That's
Right.
what Grayson is.
So,
Yeah.
every region is going to have 1 or 2 spawn races, which means in areas where humans aren't really dominant and just mowing down anything they don't like, there's going to be a native species that's going to form a rudimentary intelligence. And these are creatures that have been blessed by a kind of decaying higher intelligence.
Yeah.
Not to form civility. There's lots of single-shot intelligences.
Yeah.
Like one creature, like this, when you see a swan maiden or those ancient stories of an animal that gains intelligence, that's a one-shot.
Yeah. That's not.
They're called theraphiles in the setting, and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Not everywhere, but the point is that every big force might have one in there, right? So there's actually quite a few of them. They're all unique, but they never form a culture.
Yeah.
They're very much chaotic. They live on their own there. Mine are all regionally specific. So Baruch, there are a few that are not. So Bastion born from any of the cities. Some of them are racially specific, like Christopher and Bottled Beast are both racially specific. Custodian is region specific. Darwin is racial. So there's actually quite a few here. And you'll see there's also a lot of detail, like personality traits and so forth.
stuff like that.
I don't do that. I have one table
Yeah.
that gives you basically a backstory that you can roll or just select. Now, if you go through this one and you look at it and go, you know what, I actually want to be a Bastionborn, you can take the Bastionborn, but you don't necessarily have to take the history,
Yeah.
right? So, example, you can look at Bastionborn, you get past here, back to Blood Royal, scroll back to here, you got Bastionborn Angel, Bastionborn Man, and there's 2 more on the other side. And they give you a very appropriate tool proficiency, skill proficiencies for your character.
Yeah.
But you could just forget the prerequisite and just go on from there and forget the backstory. And that would probably be more useful.
Yeah.
Because you get small arm proficiency, which you get with your class anyway, ground vehicle proficiency, which you get in your class anyway.
Yeah.
That's why it's kind of optional to
Yeah.
go with one of ours, because this is useful if you're like, I'm going to pick Bastion Born, but then I'm going to be a fighter. Right? Like Aiden came as the character of the story as a Bastion Born angel who became a wizard. So he gets all of those, but then he goes into a wizard class.
Right.
So with the fantasy classes, there are no new fantasy classes. I don't play with bard or cleric. I do say, like, because there's no divinity in Amethyst because it's set in the real world. I didn't want to acknowledge religion as being right.
Right.
Because the problem with it, you can do that quite easily in a polytheistic based setting like D&D.
Yeah.
Because all the gods are real and they're all different gods.
Yeah.
Problem with our real world is that there's quite a few, like the dominant religion of the planet all say there's one god and ours is the right one.
Yeah.
There's very few religions. Name me a religion. The funny
That
thing
acknowledges
is, when
the
you
other.
when you really technically get down to it, the polytheistic religions of D&D are either one religion with tons of gods, which is similar to what really is. And so he goes, "Oh, what religion are you part of? I'm part of the D&D religion."
Yeah, like
Because you're like, I'm part of the faith of Oaken. No. A religion, by its defining nature, has to say it's right and everyone else is wrong. I don't think there's a religion on the planet that says, no, we're all part of the same faith. Except for maybe to a point the Abrahamic religion.
Yeah.
But then they still say that their doctrine is right and everyone else is wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
The D&D religion doesn't. They say these gods are all fighting and warring, and I'm part of Ouijas, and you're part of Palor, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, they're all in the same universe, which means they're all
They're
part
part
of
of that
either
one
they
religion.
all follow the Egyptian or the Greek, or most likely closer to the Chinese folk religion when there are heroes and gods of plenty,
Yeah.
right? Which is a very good reason why in the Legends of Lore book has your Norse gods, your Chinese gods, but doesn't have God.
Yeah.
That would piss people off.
Yeah.
So the point is the fact that because the dominant religions in Earth say our one God is right, all other gods are wrong, you cannot acknowledge one as being right.
Yeah.
Because you're going to piss off everybody.
Then. Yeah.
Right? And if you say this large group, if you say they're all right, then you're still saying some are wrong because almost all the religions say the other ones are wrong.
Yeah.
So if you say all the religions are right, then they're all wrong automatically. So
And then
there's no win. So the only way you can endorse it is simply say, no, there is no proof of divinity. It's the exact same state as it is now. Everything can be proven scientifically or through your faith.
Yeah.
It's a sun or it's a sunset. Doesn't matter. You know, you can point to say that there's God. Point to we can have scientific study to see that as well.
Yeah.
In fact, the magic system in Amethyst is designed and written in such a way to say, look, we believe that there are actual reasons this could be happening scientifically. There is a breach. There could be a wormhole to another universe that's spilling its rules onto ours, and that's why things are freaking out. Because we've seen people who can be cleric class without praying.
Right.
And that's in the cleric class. It says you don't actually have to pick a deity. Right?
Yeah. And that, yeah.
And there's actually wizard classes that can pick the cleric spell list. And if you're a cleric class, but you're still technically in the fluff a wizard.
Yeah.
That is what Grayson is.
Yeah.
Grayson is a wizard in name, but he's actually a cleric class. So
Yeah.
he studies and produces spells like a wizard, but he's using the cleric rules.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't believe in God. He believes in the earth. He pulls his magic from the earth.
Right.
But he learns how to do it through the Shaparans, and the Shaparans use wizard magic like everyone else.
Yeah.
There's different interpretations of how to do it. There's the hard book learning scientific Harry Potter one, which is what the Maskins use.
Mhm.
There's the Chaparans, which is nature, here's some
Ethereal,
earth,
almost
ethereal.
feelings.
And the Ladinians are like, you're all wrong, it's our way of doing things, which is studying, learning it, and then be part of the select class of being allowed to use this magic, you know.
Okay.
And then the dragons are like, you're all manipulating the magic system we created, so you're all wrong. You can just learn how to use these spells, and that's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to create a faith around it. But some people do. And they say, this is God's language. And they say, this is how we become magical by learning these words. So,
Yeah.
but they all can't be right, so they're all wrong. And then we have the fighter ones. Now, by far, obviously, the fighters are the most common class.
Yeah.
So they get the most stuff. So they have captains, knights, paladins, wardens, the custodians. These are all, and then of course, and I have the rogue ones, and the rogue ones are Crimson Leaf, Baruch, Thuggy, the second custodian. I had to create a whole new subset of custodian mythos because
So many
Fighter.
custodians.
No, because Fighter and Rogue now have different archetypes.
Mhm.
And because Custodian originally was a universal archetype for both of them,
Yeah.
and all the other books,
Yeah.
I had to create two distinctive subclasses now.
Custodian.
So, because Custodians used to be, there, if you were a Custodian in the city, you wore white. And if
Yeah.
you were a Custodian in the left of the city, you wore black. I've now changed that. Now there are 6 guilds,
Oh,
right?
man.
And the Guild of Ilm is black, Guild of Gnosis is white,
Yeah.
and then I haven't developed the fluff with the other 4 yet. So, so it's not really retconning because
It's not retconning, it's just
because
evolving.
everybody wears black Kawibari army when they leave,
Yeah.
and that's part of the Guild of Ilm.
Yeah.
I just never developed the rest of it until now.
Mm.
Wizard have their own little fluff as well. They have, because it talks about the totems, Academy of Logos, Chrysalis, Urmage, Cohen Academic, those are the new spell caps. So Tekkens. So as I stated, Tekkens all have their archetype features at the same level and the same number, and so they're universal, so everyone can pick them.
Mhm.
They're gonna feel a little different because they work better as a team.
Yes.
The Grounder is firearms, mostly designed for single targets. So he's very much a ranged fighter. So his ability is to shoot quite a bit and do a lot of damage. He does this through fire support paths, either using rapid fire shots, like a lot of shots through the fire for the assault path, or single shots with high accuracy. So he does more damage with the assault path, but he hits more often with the precision path. And then he also gets double tap, triple tap, and quadruple tap, so he gets multiple attacks.
Yeah.
His Brotherhood abilities are designed for him to help other people in his team,
Okay.
right? And Grounder is the one class where you can be 3 or 4 Grounders, and you can actually work together as a team.
Yeah.
Gunslinger, which is Nicole's class, similar type of thing. They're a bit more mobile.
Mhm.
They have less damaging shots, but they can fire a lot more. I think they can get to like 8 or 9 attacks, so they can just keep on attacking
Bang,
over
bang,
and
bang,
over.
bang. Yeah.
But they're very similar to the Gunslinger, to the Grounder, but they don't have anything that staggers their attacks. They just get more and more attacks. They're
Yeah.
also more maneuverable, so a lot of their abilities are based on that. Heavy, similar. He has the exact same proficiencies and specs as the Grounder. In fact, he even shares a ability. I think it's, Gaming Avatar. Gaming Avatar is very similar to a Grounder ability. Grounder ability is the amount you beat your attacker's ability, the AC by, is a damage bonus. Heavy has the same one, but instead of being a damage bonus, it impedes effects, like it pushes him back 5 feet.
Oh, I see.
Heavy.
Okay.
But the Heavy's ability is all of his attacks are area effects. So he's almost like a wizard in the way the wizard casts these fireballs and these other types of area effects. So he can impede Overwatch, which means basically area denials you put down and enemy goes through it. It's difficult terrain and you can shoot at them. And then rapid fire gaming and other things will allow you to create either cones or
like-
circle attacks,
Right. Okay.
right? And same thing, archetypes. And he's designed to be large and powerful. Marshall is not a direct hitter. His abilities are auras. So if
He
Alex,
seemed like when I was reading it over, it seemed more like he was like the buff character.
yeah,
He was the support.
he's a buff debuff character. He has
Yeah.
some healing. I've given him the same quadruple tap ability, but he just doesn't have the accuracy or the damage output as a martial. So
Okay.
sorry, of a grounder. Which gets us to martial artist. Martial artist is very different, and I'm still hoping that one works because that one's the combo chain.
That's the one that.
That's one that James uses, and
James.
it's very interesting in the fact that you have to hit consecutive times, and every time you hit consecutively, your tier goes up. If you reach a high tier, you can cook off a finishing move.
Yeah.
And a finishing move can do various effects. It's a very different way because you look at a fighter. A fighter has a very reliable damage output. Gets
Yeah.
3 or 4 attacks. He produces a lot of high kill damage, like a lot of damaging strikes. Or it's like a rogue. If as another ally within 5 feet, he gets to do 10 dice 6 damage, and just all the time. Once per turn, he can do 10 dice 6 extra damage, which is a lot. The martial artist can do something similar, except
He's got to build it up.
he's got to build it up.
Yeah.
And then he has a whole bunch of exploits that he can pick as well. And that leaves the medic, and the medic is a healer that uses cleric-like spells. Snipers changed a little bit since last time we saw him. So him and the techie are a little similar because the sniper gets these marksman points,
Okay.
right? And then he can also pick his battle conditions. Battle conditions are just abilities. Marksman points are points he uses, and he gets all of his points back after a short or long rest. And so he blows the points during combat, to either do more damage or take another attack or what have you.
Yeah.
I changed it a bit more, so he's definitely a ranged rogue.
Okay.
So unlike the grounder, who's a ranged fighter, the sniper's a ranged rogue. So he can do that single kill, high damage target for once per turn, right?
Yeah.
And that's how he does it. So he definitely has the same ability. He's a sneaking guy, so he has the sneaking ability of a rogue.
Yeah.
But unlike the rogue, who more or less does melee, but a rogue can do like a sniper with a crossbow.
Yeah.
Sniper does the same thing, only sniper can do it from like 2 kilometers away.
Yeah.
Now, Techie's different. He gets points as well, but he uses his points to modify his weapons.
Yeah.
So you're spending your points. You spend your points when you press the button.
Yeah.
But technically, you've invested those points beforehand.
Yeah.
So you get these points, and then you buy the modifications of your gun.
See,
And
this is where I think that it's just messing with my game style, because the techie I find is he's a blow your load and that's it.
No, I think he's the opposite of that. See, that was Brown's problem with the Infiltrator class, which is not in this book. It's actually in the Ultramodern 6
Yeah,
book.
yeah.
The Infiltrator can blow his load and do a shit ton of damage early on, and then he's worse than a fighter until...
But that's what happens with the techie.
No, but the Techie doesn't... The Techie... Remember, once you've spent your points and modified your gun, you get those points for the entire battle.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's say you have 3 tech points, right? You then say, okay, I'm going to do increased caliber to increase the die of my weapon from 1 die 6 to 1 die 8. That's 2 points. And I'll do 1 point on increased muzzle velocity so I can reroll all 1s and 2s on damage dice, right?
Yeah.
That's immediately an immediate boost. And you spend those 3 points, you press that button, and boom, you have that, right? You can then, next time that battle comes around, you can press that button again and get that same modification. You spend 3 points. So if you are first level, you get 3 points plus your wisdom modifier, or intelligence modifier. So if you have a 16 intelligence, which you probably should if you're attack, you should have 6 points, which means you should be good for 2 or 3 battles before you run out of points for a basic mod.
Yeah.
Now, in the game we're in right now, you're 6th level, which means you already have 8 plus your modifiers. So you're about 12 points, which means you can afford to be a more... You can say, you know what, I'm not sure if I'm going to press a button to spend the points. This battle doesn't seem that important. Or you're like, holy shit, I'm going to have to press the button to get those points. I haven't modified it, so I'm going to hold off. Or you can go, I'm going to have a big mod and a little mod and say, you know what, I'm going to go in here with the big mod because I think we're nearing the end of the encounter.
Okay. See, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So
I didn't realize you could have multiple setups.
You can have as many configurations as you want.
Oh,
it takes,
shit.
in the old build, it took you 5 minutes to change the pattern. So if a combat happened, you didn't get a chance to tweak your weapon, you'd have to go with the old configuration.
Okay.
Right? So you'd go, okay, I have charge shot, explosive round, and hyper shock. So those are my mods for 4 points. Problem is, I only have 4 points left, so I hit this button once, and it'll last for 5 minutes, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Right? But the day isn't over yet, and since I don't get my points back after a long rest, if we have a big battle coming up, I'm going to hold off. So I'm not going to be as powerful this combat, so we can get more powerful this combat. Or you can say, you know what? I'm going to keep a basic format as the default. I'll just have 1 increased caliber for 2 points. I keep running that.
Yeah.
And only in emergencies will I program another mod into it. Right? Like, oh my god, this is like last week where they're approaching the final battle basically because there's this big trap, this big test. Like, all right.
We didn't play last week.
No, 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
No, the session after you left early.
Yeah.
When they fought both. When they ended up fighting a green or a cancer dragon.
Yeah.
And then, when that point, like, okay, good thing I had that extra configuration loaded in. It takes you 5 minutes to change a configuration. Let's you say I'm changing in this configuration. Now that's an old build. There's a new section right here. You can attempt to regain a lot. There's kind of 2 things. A, you can modify something on the fly by making an engineering check.
Okay.
By saying, okay, just do a quick tweak, pop something in, and do a higher build. And then
Does that take your turn?
Yes. Takes an action. So 1 action in an emergency. Because most of the time you're like, okay, we're going into this thing. I'm going to go in with this configuration and so forth. The point is you have to have those spare points. If you have a 4-point configuration, you only have 2 points left. It can't activate that modification. You have to then take an action to reconfigure to a 2-point. The other thing, of course, is I've also given you people more points. So obviously,
I saw that
you
too.
look at now at 20th level, you have 22 points. So you can now go freaking crazy on the points.
Yeah.
The other thing,
So can I actually set up multiple configurations?
you can solve. There is no limit on the different configurations you have, and the number of configurations you have, the number of ones. Because it takes you, I think, a couple hours to configure a gun to have mods.
Yeah.
Then it can have it forever.
Yeah.
Like your shotgun and your sniper weapon are both set up for mods.
Yes.
What mods you put in, you can have a page full of different mods. Okay, this is when I deal with this. You can even write notes. Okay, when I'm taking on this dragon, I want to make sure I have the high kill stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing I could have done is change the rules somewhat to say, okay, I want this tweak to be magical, or I want this tweak to be
Like hot swap.
key. Yeah. The reason why I didn't do that is that there's ammunition and guns that do that already.
Okay.
Because when you're 18th level, you'll have probably a laser gun, and that laser gun counts as magical. So there's no point of creating a modification that makes your weapon magical technically magical, because chances are when you reach that level, when you have to fight those things, you might actually already own that gun that does that. So that's the reason why I didn't include it. So it came to the point of just accuracy, more attacks, or damage, and not necessarily turning your weapon to being firing shots made of fire.
Right. And that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I can get incendiary rounds.
Yeah, you can buy incendiary rounds and so forth. And,
Yeah.
and since you're an engineer, you're a crafter.
Yeah.
And because you're a crafter, you can then build your guns.
Yeah.
Because you can have widgets. You have your widget bag. When you widget bag, you can say, you know what, I'm going to build a laser gun. And I'll have a laser gun. So if someone said, oh, something sensitive to fire? No, it's okay. I have a laser gun. So that's the reason why there's no mods for changing this.
Laser beams.
There's no guns for there's no mods for changing the types of bullets or laser ones you fire. Because sometimes you're not firing lasers. Bullets, you're firing lasers, or you're actually using a flamethrower or what have you. So that's why they're basically just number of attacks and damage. But there's also another rule here to say, additionally, you can attempt to regain a lost tech point with a DC 5 intelligence check. Every time you try to recover, that goes up by 5. So at the end of a battle, you can start making DC rolls to see if you can recover some of your lost points.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes up constantly. So after the 5th point, it's no longer
It's
capable.
not even possible.
You're not even get it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the techie. He doesn't get a triple or quadruple. I think he gets 2 shots.
Yeah,
He
Pioneer.
gets a second shot and a third shot with Pioneer. So he doesn't get a number of attacks. But he is very much, although he's definitely engineering, he's a nerd, he's a techie guy, and he has a lot of stuff that allows him to play with engineering. I wanted to really encourage him to be engineering based.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a lot of stuff dealing with engineering roles.
Yeah.
Although he's actually quite the heavy hitter. And then you have archetypes. And the archetypes you saw. So you have Angel Sniper, which is a rapid fire sniper. And then Bannerhead. So some of these are universal. Like Bannerhead is definitely a universal one. Anyone can pick a Bannerhead or a Brother of Blood.
Yeah.
Brother of Blood actually encourages the whole group to pick Brother of Blood because then you get way more powerful.
Yeah.
But stuff like Brawler and Grandmaster are definitely martial arts inspired. While Gun Dancer and the Gun Dancer and the other one, come on, what's called very much a gunslinger one. Machine of War, Man at Arms, Infantry Support Specialist can be considered grounder or heavy, but because grounder and heavy are so close to each other in their theme,
Yeah.
those once again are completely universal. And then Sapper, which is a combat engineer for explosives. Then we get to equipment. That's where the big change occurs here, because in the old game, tech level associated with enhancement bonus, and in the new 5th edition rules, enhancement bonuses have been heavily nerfed. So when they used to have tech level 5 was +5 damage, +5 hit, now they peak out at +3. There's all these new weapon properties. So if someone reads this, they're not going to understand anything that's going on. So if you have your sniper weapon, what sniper weapon do you have? You have a sniper rifle?
What was it? It was the SPP sensor gun.
Oh, okay.
That's what I went with.
Yeah, that's a bit harder. So it does lower damage, but it has the guided properly because it's basically a self-propelled rocket.
Yeah, I know.
So reload means you get 10 shots and you do one action, either a bonus action or an action to reload all 10 shots.
Yeah.
Where you see feed, like a bolt rifle, you actually have to load every shot manually. Right? So it's like feed's great, 5 shots, and like, okay, I'll take 5 actions to load up shots. But that's the thing. They're immune weapons, which means they never ever have to roll. They never have to get hit by disruption unless they're targeted for disruption. Which means they can never disrupt it ambiently. They only disrupt if you try to enchant them. Like you literally want to saturate magic into them. At that point, the gunpowder.
When do I have to do disruption rolls then?
I do disruption rolls at the end of the initiative order. I roll a die 20, and if it's three or less, then some of your technology can get disrupted. If I roll a 1, somebody's tech is going disrupted. If I roll a 5, if anyone has a tech level 5 weapon, it gets disrupted. That's why, once again, whoever has the higher tech weapon has a greater chance of being disrupted, because so a tech level 6 will get disrupted on a 6 and less. You look at SPP rifle, sensor gun, bonus +1, so it's a +1 weapon right off the bat.
Yeah.
So you get a +1 to hit, +1 damage for everything. It's guided, which means you have as many times your attack level, which is 3, you can re-roll an attack. So if you miss, I blow off one of my guided uses and I get another re-roll. You can do that 3 times per day. And that's an SP sensor gun. And then you look at something like the SPP Vortex just underneath it. That one's definitely, it has an auto 1d10. Still has guided, still has reloaded, but now it's 70 shots. It has auto because you can switch it from single shot and auto mode.
Yeah.
When you shoot it to auto mode, it fires 10 shots per attack roll. Or, no, it shoots 5 rounds per attack, but your damage bonus goes up to 1d10 instead of 1d8.
But it didn't have the sniper rifle.
It doesn't have a sniper rifle, exactly. But there are some weapons that you'll see. Thumper laser rifle, auto laser, so now it's a laser property. We have ultimate sniper rifle, which is actually a railgun. Do you know it? Because SPP is an SPP weapon, so it's a guided. So it's a self-propelled projectiles. You look at the ultimate laser rifle. It's a sniper rifle with a magnetic property, so it's a coil gun. Right? That means, of course, if you kill a target, right, you can make a free attack against a target in line of effect, because that bullet, like the movie Eraser, the shot's going right through that target and hit somebody else.
Yeah.
So if you happen to be lucky enough to catch another target behind it, you can make another free attack. Small arms, there are no such thing as a small arm, a one-handed sniper weapon. So there's no sniper weapons in the one-handed. These are pistols. But when you get to two-handed small arms, if you move on your turn, you suffer a -2 penalty to attack rolls.
Yeah.
Right? So if you don't move, you can shoot, but then you can move after. So it's a mild penalty, but it also means the fact that you can shoot and then you can move. But if you move before you shoot, you get that penalty. Heavy weapons are different. Heavy weapons you actually have to plant.
Yeah.
You actually have to take an action there's a tripod.
Basically, hole up.
You have to basically give them because if you try to move and then you try to shoot, that means you're basically mobile, which means after you fire, you basically get knocked on your ass.
Yeah.
You also have to have a minimum strength to use them, but they have, of course, much more powerful. So their auto ones are big. They're like 1d12, 2d6 plus 6. That's a rocket launcher. And then you have super heavy. Super heavy, you actually have to take an action to bolt it to the ground, and you have to take an action to plant it up. Okay. Otherwise, you actually get knocked prone every time you try to fire the weapon.
Oh.
These are like 50. So obviously, super kill sniper. These are very powerful. 1d10 plus 10.
Jesus.
Right? Bonus +2, because it's +2 weapon. Magnetic, heavy. Sniper +2, reload 5 shots. So you have 5 shots with them. 1d10 plus 10. It's a 35,000 cost weapon, so you shouldn't be getting this until later down the road anyway.
Yeah.
But 1d10 plus 10. But the point is, you have to take an action to plant it, and then you have to take an action to uproot it, and you cannot fire on the swing because you'll miss. You have disadvantage with attack rolls with it unless it's mounted.
Crap.
Right?
But when they hit,
Well,
they hit
exactly.
like
The thing is,
pop,
once again,
yeah.
well, remember, there's a mass driver here,
Yeah.
right? That is 1d10 plus 10, bonus +2, heavy magnetic, and there's particle beam guns. These are
high level stuff.
These are tank weapons.
Yeah.
They're not designed to be carried. Funny thing is that once again, you can actually get mecha in this game. They're basically exactly like fantasy armor. Same stat. They have only when you look actually at the description when you see different things like nano reaction, critical hits becomes a normal hit. So they all have the specific features, but there's no real big difference. The only difference is that when you get to the exo armor, which are like these things. For example, if you get a super heavy weapon and you mount it on the Amarok, it doesn't count as a super heavy weapon anymore
because that thing can support its weight.
So now it gets reduced. The super heavy becomes a heavy. So you don't get knocked down, but you still have to plant yourself when you fire. Well, you don't get knocked down. But the important thing is that a heavy weapon becomes a two-headed small arm, and a two-headed small arm becomes a small arm. So you can move easily and fire two-headed small arms from the hip, from an Amarok, and not have it affected. But the Amarok is also large. It has no arms, so it has no melee capacity. But you're in a giant mecha. I mean, you're in a large mecha.
Yeah.
So you look at The Amarok. Now this is the Apostle Motor Slave, which is actually not actually drawn, unfortunately. Go to the Amarok specific. So the Amarok counts as a legendary item as well as 2 rare
Yeah.
items. So
Oh, wow.
it's extremely it's an artifact.
Yeah.
It's actually a very powerful item. You're considered large. You require an H-class power cell. You have +2 advantage AC, so it's a +2 armor. So you have AC of 20. You have 50 extra hit points.
Jesus.
And a threshold of 50. Now, the threshold means that every single round, every single time you hit, you can shell off some of that damage to the armor's hit points.
Yeah.
The threshold is the amount you can shell off. So a light armor could have 20 hit points on a threshold of 5, which means you can take 5 hit points off and have it to the armor. If the armor gets reduced to 0, it's still functioning as just no longer giving you any additional defense.
Yeah.
Because the Amarok encloses you in a giant shell,
Yeah.
it has a threshold of 50 and 50 hit points, which means it can take all of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. You have a speed of 30 feet because you're not moving at your speed anymore. Because you have no arms, you have an auto reloader. So you have like three free reloads, but then you have to get out of your suit and load
manually
everything.
reload it, and that would take an action.
You have a disruption recovery. You're immune to gas, obviously, and inhaled poisons. You ignore penalties for difficult terrain. You have night vision. You have resistance to cold and fire, obviously, because it's. And here, you have neither limbs nor manipulators to hold on to external weapons. You have no threatening reach and cannot make opportunity attacks. You're equipped with 3 heavy weapon mounts because the Amarok is large. You can install super heavy weapons as heavy weapons. Likewise, you can install a heavy weapon or 2-headed small arms in these mounts as 2-headed small arms and 1-headed small arms, respectively. You have disadvantage on attack rolls against medium or smaller targets 5 feet or closer. You are just an armored strong point.
Yeah.
Now, in retrospect, you could also go for something like a light armor, like a Covenant, which is something like that, where you have flight capacity. You don't suffer falls because you have a gravity drive that basically cushions your fall. You're resistant to fire, lightning. You're not the armored strong point like a mobile motor armor is, which is a similar type of guy. Although you can have arms. There are 2 types of vehicles. You have your shitty inner city vehicles that some people decided to take out, and then there are vehicles designed for open fantasy.
Yeah.
When you're doing your own little homebrew game, you're just using city vehicles, you're driving around, there's rules for city vehicles. The vast majority of the game deals, so I don't deal with like hot rods and crotch rockets and so forth. There are all-terrain bikes like Enduros, trucks, APCs, things. I'm going to take my F-150 out and go into open type of thing.
Yeah.
But most of the time, fortunately it's gas powered and there are no gas stations out there, so you can go about 100 kilometers and come
And
back.
then you're done.
You have to have a long range item because there's no gas stations out there.
Yeah.
You have to run on some type of alternative power. You either run them, and they're all running off of battery. Some are running off solar recharge. Some are running off replaceable battery packs. Or, in one situation, they run off a nuclear drive. Right? It's called the nuke truck. It's actually in there. The Scrambler, which has always been my flagship vehicle,
Yeah.
because that's the big thing. You actually have one of those things as well.
That's one of the big.
One of the big vehicles that you guys are driving. Then there's aircraft, and the aircraft are very rare because if you disrupt these, they just stop moving. These you disrupt, they crash. So which is the reason why airships
die.
became
And people die.
which is the reason why airships became popular, because if your modal system disrupts, you just float.
Yeah.
They're all thermal airships because obviously finding helium or hydrogen is kind of difficult, so they all run off heated air.
Okay.
But they're actually rather large, so they can actually transport quite a bit. But they're called blimps because they're thermal. They're frames, sort of like the Hindenburg. The Hindenburg is a dirigible, and the difference between the difference between a dirigible and a blimp is that a blimp deflates, it collapses in on itself.
Yeah.
It has no frame.
Yeah.
Where a dirigible, the frame itself supports its own weight.
Yeah.
Which, oddly enough, even though it's heavier because it's actually a frame,
It's more efficient.
it's more efficient and actually can hold more in the tank, so you can actually build them much, because you can't. There's a limit to how big you can make a blimp. Okay, so that's the flow map I was talking about. So Chaperons, Lodenians, and Narrows for the first.
Yeah.
Right now, the Lodenians branched into these 2, which means that there's a 1 line to the original Fae.
Yeah.
Then you have Damascans. Damascans became the Doppelgangers, which are not nearly as seen. Gimfen, Tenenbree, Skeg, Kythix, Bogs, and Pugs. So Pugs are an anathema. Bogs and Kythix are anathema. Anything under the gray
Yeah.
are basically anathema.
Even Tilla?
No, Thailand and
Or
Pegasus
Thailand's
are
right.
offshoots.
Okay.
right? So we're looking at the timeline. This is also a timeline as well. And this gray line is something called the Fall or the Exodus. That's when Ixandar arrived and corrupted the Fae.
Okay.
So that's when the Pagas emerged, and that's why they're not part of the chain, because they're not part of the ladder.
You're right.
The
They're
Thailand
actually
are not part of the ladder. But the Pugs and Chiggoth are. So a dwarf actually gets larger and heavier. Ogres, trolls, Etten, Ograk, and Chiggoth,
Yeah.
right?
But they still have almost the same stature of that big.
Big hulking things.
Yeah.
And they become like, they're miners, they're diggers, and what Chiggoth is a walking mountain.
Yeah, and that makes sense, right?
The Shaperans become fairies, dawnlings, changelings, satyrs, fauns, centaurs. And so you see much more foresty creatures,
Yeah.
but they also have their own anathema.
You're not incorporating anything like the Tiefling, are you?
No, because anything that's really more D&D
Yeah, that's
is
true.
I want to stick with traditional fantasy.
Yeah.
So there are still a huge list of available monsters.
Yeah.
These are all available monsters. Some of them get retooled a little bit, saying, well, this is an Ixandar creature now, this is a spawn creature, and so forth.
Yeah.
You have the bogs. Bogs are goblins.
Bog mothers.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was Connor's invention. Thank you for that.
He got it looks like he got that right from Witcher. Did he ever play Witcher?
Oh no, Bog Mother's from 2001.
2000 the Space Odyssey?
No. I'm telling you the fact he created Condon created the Bog Mother in 2001. Like, remember, Amethyst is almost 20, is 16 years old. now.
I think Witcher was really old.
Yeah, no.
Anyway,
Guaranteed he wouldn't have read it.
Mm.
The Dojin, which are the anathema. The dragons, of course. I only put the evil dragons in this one. In the next book, we're going into details of the good dragons in the neutral and the Okani. So the bad dragons, which are the dragons that got corrupted,
Yeah.
are the Typhox. And the Typhox are split into the Cancer dragons,
Yeah.
into the Death dragons, which
Yeah.
are black dragons, basically. And then the Fallen dragons. In the next book, we're going into the Holy Silver and Guardian dragons,
Oh, cool.
which are the good ones.
Yeah.
Guardians are actually anthropomorphic,
Okay.
so they're more human-like,
Oh,
even though
okay.
they're 30 feet tall.
Okay.
So imagine a 40-foot tall dragon with armor and a sword. That's a Guardian dragon, basically.
That's cool.
Then the Okani, which we've seen there.
Yeah.
Then we have some Tekkens, of course. Kodiak as a monster stat. I always love that illustration. I said to Nick, I want an illustration of a Pegasus and a Kodiak fighting over a bar stool, and I want there to be a little cat in the middle. I don't like why. Don't ask me why.
Just
they're
'cause-
fighting over a cat.
And I like how you even tilted the head of the cat. Just,
Yeah.
What are you guys doing?
So, Max is part of me laying down pipe for a framework here,
Yeah.
because Max is not explained. He's not from any bastion, but he seems to be immune. How do they make something immune to tech? Well, one thing, they make it either primitive, or they shield it with Fey iron, which is leaded iron, with so many layers that it basically is immune to magic.
Yeah.
The downside, it gets kind of big and heavy. So they made Max, and Max is like a 12-foot tall robot clad in leaded armor, right?
That's awesome.
But no one knows.
Anti-Ekin exoskeleton.
Yeah, the problem is nobody knows who made him. They
Is there
were,
only one?
well, there's only one at a time.
Okay.
No one's ever seen one defeated, but they think there could be more than one. The point is, though, no one knows who sends them, and no bastion claims ownership. Then we have the Pegasus, who I said they were corrupted. Originally designed to be, the pug. They were just, they're basically long-limbed.
Yeah.
They're very much based on a Pacific MMA fighter who I can't remember. Pug is the house elf, basically a bunch of really pissed off doggies. Skegs are higher on the evolutionary ladder than bogs and pugs, so they enslave them, but they're still anathema. There's a whole bunch of them. And then Thornshroud, who, like I said, is this another offshoot, but he's Ekin offshoot. That's going to get explained in more detail.